Loneliness isn't the absence of people. It's the absence of resonance. And that's why someone can sit at a crowded table, laugh at the right moments, respond on cue, and still feel completely alone. Because loneliness isn't about proximity. It's about being understood. For most of human history, connection was survival. You needed your group for food, safety, protection. So the human brain evolved to track something very specific, not just who is near you, but who understands you. Psychologist John Cacioppo, who spent decades studying loneliness, described it as a signal, like hunger. Hunger tells you you need food. Loneliness tells you you need meaningful connection. And meaningful is the key word. Here's the first mechanism. Surface connection versus psychological exposure. Modern friendships are often built around shared environments: work, school, social media, group chats. You share space, you share jokes, but you don't always share vulnerability. So you can be socially active while emotionally unseen. And when parts of you remain unexpressed, your brain registers that gap, even if you're smiling. Here's the second mechanism.
In many social settings, you don't show your full emotional state. You regulate. You soften your opinions. You filter your sadness. You exaggerate your enthusiasm. Not because you're fake, because social harmony requires calibration. But when calibration becomes constant, it becomes exhausting. And exhaustion amplifies loneliness. Because you're not being rejected, you're not being known. Now add comparison. In group settings, identity fragments. You become the funny one, the calm one, the smart one, the quiet one. But humans aren't roles. They're layered. When you're only known in fragments, a subtle dissonance forms. You feel visible, but not understood. And understanding is what reduces loneliness. Here's the third mechanism.
Emotional depth mismatch. Sometimes you outgrow the emotional depth of a group. Conversations stay surface level. You crave nuance, but the environment rewards simplicity. So you adapt. You stay quiet about heavier thoughts, and slowly your internal world separates from your social world. Not dramatically, quietly. And that quiet separation feels like loneliness. Research on belonging, including work by Baumeister and Leary, 1995, shows that humans don't just need contact, they need stable, meaningful bonds. Not frequent interactions, but consistent emotional reciprocity. When reciprocity drops, even subtly, loneliness rises.
Now, let's talk about overstimulation. Modern social life is constant. Notifications, group chats, events, stories. You're always connected. But constant access reduces anticipation, and anticipation strengthens emotional weight. When communication becomes frictionless, it becomes lighter. And lighter connection can feel less anchoring. Here's another contradiction. You may be surrounded by friends, but emotionally independent. You process your real struggles alone. You don't burden others. You don't open fully. You maintain strength. That independence might look healthy, but without shared emotional weight, loneliness lingers.
Loneliness is often misinterpreted as social failure, but it's usually alignment failure. Your inner world and outer world are misaligned. You laugh at jokes while thinking about things no one at the table knows, and that gap becomes space. Space becomes distance. Distance becomes loneliness. Here's something important. Loneliness doesn't mean your friends are wrong. It doesn't mean you're ungrateful. It means your nervous system is craving deeper attunement, Not more people, more resonance. Now let's talk about the digital layer. Social media intensifies visibility. You see everyone's moments, but you don't always see their emotional reality. So even when you're with friends, part of your brain compares. Are we as close as other people? Is this depth enough? And comparison reduces satisfaction, even in good environments.
There's also another subtle factor. As people mature, their emotional bandwidth narrows. Careers grow, stress increases, energy decreases, so conversations shorten. Depth requires time, and time is scarce, so surface interaction expands, and depth becomes rare, which makes loneliness more common. Here's the real psychology. Loneliness is not a sign you need more friends. It's a signal that you need 1 or 2 relationships where you are psychologically visible, not impressive, not entertaining, visible, where you don't regulate as much, where you don't perform, where silence isn't awkward and vulnerability isn't disruptive.
The solution isn't becoming louder or finding a bigger group. It's risking clarity, saying what you actually think, expressing what you actually feel, even if it slightly destabilizes the dynamic. Because resonance requires exposure, and exposure feels risky. But without it, connection stays partial. So if you felt lonely in a room full of people, it doesn't mean you're broken. It means you're craving depth in a world optimized for noise.
Tell me, when you feel lonely around others, is it because they don't see you? Or because you haven't let yourself be seen? Comment if the same happens with you. Subscribe. The next video will explain more than you expect. Click it